Hey, welcome back everyone to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 191. I'm here with my co-facilitator Lionel.
Hello, hello everyone. How you all doing today? How you doing today, Mike?
I'm good, brother. Yourself?
I am well.
All right. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. Um, Tonight is Black Tech Talk, Black Blockchain Spring Discussion of 2019.
All right, all right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. The first topic on the docket tonight comes from CoinTelegraph.com, titled "Washington State Law Recognizes Blockchain Records as Legally Valid and Enforceable." The United States, the United States state of Washington, has passed a bill that recognizes and protects the legal status of electronic records pertaining to distributed ledgers like blockchains. The bill, substitute Senate Bill 5638, was signed into effect by Governor Jay Inslee on April 26. The original version of the bill had its first reading by the Washington State Legislature on January 25, 2019. The bill has now passed with 96 to 1 and will go into effect in late July. The new law has a clause which prevents discriminating against electronic records which have in some way been part of a distributed ledger. An electronic record may not be denied legal effect, validity, or enforceability solely because it is generated, communicated, received, or stored using distributed ledger technology. End quote. The bill also provides legal definitions for the terms blockchain and distributed ledger that can be referred to moving forward. The Tennessee legislature made a similar move in March 2018 when Governor Bill Haslam signed a bill that recognizes the legal authority of blockchain technology and smart contracts in conducting electronic transactions, according to its summary. As Cointelegraph previously reported, Ohio has recently introduced a bill that also is related to the use of distributed ledgers. In this instance, House Bill 2020-220 aims to allow the government of Ohio to implement blockchain aided solutions. For instance, blockchain could allow the state government to readily track and share identifying information such as car titles and licenses. All right. Um, in this article, there is a few sections that stood out to me. This short paragraph right here. The new law has a clause which prevents discriminating against electronic records which have in some way been part of a distributed ledger. And this quote, which reads, "An electronic record may not be denied legal effect, validity, or enforceability solely because it is generated, communicated, received, or stored using distributed technology." Now we're seeing in some states, such as this article points out, especially in Washington State, Tennessee, and Ohio, that legislators are legally saying that distributed ledger technologies, such as blockchain and other distributed ledger technologies, are legally binding. They can be any records that are put on these different type of blockchains can be used in a legal way, and information stored on them is valid. In this last paragraph, we see Ohio, um, House Bill 220 aims to allow the government of Ohio to implement blockchain aided solutions. For instance, blockchain could allow the state government to readily track and share identifying information, such as car titles and licenses. Could allow the state government to readily track and share information, which means if you are driving without a license in the state of Ohio and you're from Cincinnati, but you are in currently Cleveland, this distributed ledger technology would allow a state trooper or that local government in Cleveland to log on to the state's um, site where they keep their identifying information, such as car titles and licenses, and quickly see all the information pertaining to that car or you. instead of waiting a couple of days or a couple of hours. They'll be able to quickly see, which meaning all the local governments, all the local towns and counties in the state of Ohio would have access, up to date access, always up to date access, because it's a distributed ledger of all information pertaining to this, such as this car titles and licenses. Now we're seeing each state legalize the legitimacy of these distributed ledgers. By state to state, it's not. We haven't seen it federally on a federal level that will blanket the entire country, but we're seeing state to state. And per this is Washington State. Per this article, specifically talk about Washington State, Tennessee, and Ohio. And in other articles, we've seen the state of Wyoming also put on the books legal framework pertaining to distributed ledger technology. You have anything about this, Mike?
No, I don't.
All right, all right. Let's get on to the next topic. The next topic comes from Computer World. Google Hyperledger launched online identity management tools. The new tools enable mobile-based options for employees to sign into corporate applications or create self-sovereign identities across access to which they control. In two separate announcements last week, Google and Linux's Hyperledger project launched tools aimed at enabling secure identity management for enterprises via mobile and other devices. Google unveiled 5 upgrades to its Beyond Corp Cloud Enterprise Security Service that enables identity and access management for employees, corporate partners, and customers. Hyperledger, the blockchain-based open source project under the Linux Foundation, announced that its any distributed ledger for identity management is now live after nearly a year of development. Google wants to make its enterprise cloud platform the center of the universe for identify and access management, or IAM, and security, according to Jack Gold, principal analyst with J. Gold Associates. Cloud in the past has been questioned by some organizations as not being as secure as on premise, Gold said. With these announcements, Google is trying to show that it can provide very high level security features that are as good as, and in some cases even better than, on prem solutions, even when running on their cloud. Google's upgrades include context aware enhancements through the launch of the Beyond Corp Alliance, which is a partnership with endpoint security and management vendors who feed device posture data into Google's context aware access engine. Initially, we are working with Checkpoint, Lookout, Palo Alto Networks, Symantec, and VMware, and will make this capability available to joint customers in the coming months, Google said in a statement. Google's G Suite customers will automatically get the upgrades. There are a number of medium and some large enterprise customers who have standardized on G Suite. So the upgrades could prevent, say, a hacker getting your credentials and trying to log in from London when the system knows you are actually in Boston, Gold said. There is also an API that allows identity and access management functions to be added to an on-premises or public cloud web-based apps, Gold continued. It's basically a service you can call, and they are working with the MDM vendors to make the link from device to bring context into the app servers in the cloud. This can help with access security and help avert data breaches. Additionally, Google added security keys for Android phones based on FIDO, Fast Identity Online, Alliance authentication standards, which it said will help defend against phishing attacks. Cloud identity enhancements, including single sign on capabilities to thousands of cloud hosted apps and integration with human resource management systems. general availability of identity platform, an encryption protected single sign-in authentication tool, and the availability of managed services for Microsoft Active Directory for select customers. The first interesting upgrade, Gold said, is the addition of Google's key technology to all Android phones running Android 7 and above, which will turn the phone into a two-factor authentication device. Everyone is carrying a phone these days, so the ability to work as a 2FA device without having to have something unique like a like an RSA token and being much more secure than via a text message is pretty interesting, Gold said. It should be attractive and cost effective to many more enterprises beyond the extremely security conscious regulated industries like financial and healthcare. Hyperledger Indy. Hyperledger Indy, a distributed ledger built for decentralized identity, leverages blockchain technology to create a platform for issuing, storing, and verifying credentials that are transferable, private, and secure. An enterprise can use Hyperledger Indy for managing employees' identities and, with the right setup and agents, manage them over mobile devices. A Hyperledger spokesperson said via email. However, the self-sovereign nature of Indy goes much further. It also lets individuals own their own data and create trusted frameworks for employees, partners, customers, etc. With its activation notification, the Linux Foundation also announced it has a number of diverse people and organizations already built real-world solutions using Indy. For example, the Sovereign Foundation has organized the largest production network powered by Indy. The province of British Columbia was the first to deploy a production use case to the Sovereign Network with work on its Verifiable Organizations Network, a platform for managing trust at an institutional level. Fintech firms, software makers, telecom providers, and other businesses have joined forces to develop a blockchain based network that will enable anyone to exchange digital credentials online and without the risk of unintentionally exposing any private data. The companies are part of the Sovereign Foundation, a new nonprofit organization now developing the Sovereign Network, which could enable anyone to globally exchange pre verified data with any entity also on the network. The online credentials would be akin to identifying information a person might have in a physical wallet, a driver's license, a debit bank card, or a company ID. Instead of a physical card, however, the IDs in digital wallets would be encrypted and linked back to the institutions that created them, such as a bank, a government, or even an employer, which, through the blockchain, would automatically verify information to a requester. The owner of the digital wallet can determine what information a requesting business receives or no more. British Columbia created an online directory service using an Indy powered blockchain to enable businesses to quickly verify whether a client they're dealing with is legally registered to do business as a corporation. The blockchain based service can also find doing business as names registered by corporations. In addition, BC's blockchain ledger makes applying for credentials faster and less error prone, and using and reissuing credentials simpler and more secure, as well as being able to verify those credentials from anywhere in the world. Can we create a quick and easy way to navigate through the maze of services from your local, provincial, or federal governments? BC's product lead John Jordan said, referring to his time working for federal government in Ottawa. Jordan estimated BC spent about 1 million while Ontario and the Canadian government each spent another 300,000 to 500,000, mostly on salaries for a handful of developers to create the identity management system. We've got a $2 million investment that we're all benefiting from, and we don't have to pay $2 million, right? Jordan said. So it actually saved taxpayers millions of dollars. He noted that the larger team had richer ideas, delivered code faster, and tested it more thoroughly and collaborative approach that benefited everyone. A while ago, Mike, I remember you were discussing how some employees in a corporation would take the computer that the company sent, what I sent them, gave them, and take it across the street to a coffee shop or any other place that's not in the building and access that company's information, and therefore a hacker would get that information. What this article is telling me that with this Hyperledger, specifically Hyperledger Indy, that the Linux Foundation has formed, that it is allowing people to a keep secure, tight hold over their information, b make it less likely, not infallible, but less likely for hackers to hack their information because due to the nature of distributed ledgers, um, they don't have a secure entry point that will allow the distributed ledger to say, hey, okay, this is the person signing in. And also, it points out how it will allow your cell phone to be a 2FA authentication. And I know you've said before that that exists already, but it's also adding that as a level of security.
Yeah, we've always used multi-factor authentication through phones. That's always been the case. Um, the the area that I think this article is trying to touch on is adding it as another layer, but adding it as another layer to blockchain is something different. The blockchain itself should already have should already be using the nodes that it's attached to on that hyperledger or on a distributed ledger to actually authenticate who the user is and leverage the distributed database within that blockchain to actually keep those records safe. The only difference here is that you have something called LDAP, which is light directory address protocol. So that's what Active Directory is in Microsoft, and Microsoft uses that to manage people's profiles, manage user profiles. So when you authenticate in your Windows system and it goes over the network, that's where it's authenticating to. I think they're trying to do with this blockchain is actually tie in the records, um, tie in the AD records to the blockchain itself, which is actually not a bad idea. The only issue is what what's the legitimacy of that blockchain, right? If it, as long as it doesn't have the 51% attack that the Ethereum has, then it should be okay. But they seem to add more measures into this. One of the issues that we do have is when a person um, has a token and the token expires, they get locked out of their account. I'm not sure how blockchain will be implemented in that regard, because if the token is put on the blockchain itself, then that actually is a positive.
It seems like this would be a private distributed ledger private blockchain where you would need permission to be on it or to have access to it anyway. And that would have another layer of security. I'm saying all these distributed ledger slash blockchains are not perfect. They're just a more secure way of doing business compared to what's out there today. But it does seem like this would be a private ledger, a private slash permission ledger. All right. Let's get to our next article here. All right. This one comes from Forbes.com and blockchain 50 billion-dollar babies. Cryptocurrencies may be in the depths of winter, but it's early spring for new business applications using the technology underlying Bitcoin. Take the case of financial record keeping behemoth Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, otherwise known as DTCC. It's responsible for keeping the books on 90 million transactions a day. representing most of the world's 48 trillion in securities, from stocks and bonds to mutual funds and derivatives. Decades ago, it was all done on paper, and now, through electronic, it comes to be burdened by a myriad of duplicate procedures and reconciliations among thousands of its members. In a few months, DTCC will quietly begin the largest live implementation of blockchain, the distributed database technology made popular by the Bitcoin cryptocurrency. Records for about 50,000 accounts in DTCC's Trade Information Warehouse, where information on 10 trillion worth of credit derivatives is stored, will move to a customized digital ledger called Axcore. Soon, all will have access to a single real-time account of trades, eliminating layers of databases. Walmart is using blockchain technology to track shipments from its suppliers and reduce the risks of food spoilage and contamination. It has already filed 50 blockchain related patents. Hard drive maker Seagate is using the tech to catch and prevent counterfeiters, and MetLife can now pay claims instantly to its expectant mothers who test positive for gestational diabetes. White blockchain. Rather than be disrupted by ICO funded upstarts, global corporations are embracing the technology underlying cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin because they want to speed up business processes, increase transparency, and potentially save billions of dollars. According to International Data Corporation, total corporate and government spending on blockchain should hit 2.9 billion in 2019, an increase of 89% over the previous year, and reached 12.4 billion in 2020 when PwC or PricewaterhouseCoopers surveyed 600 execs last year. 84% said their companies are involved with blockchain. Introducing the Forbes Blockchain 50. With assistance from industry consultants and other experts, Forbes' team of reporters and editors identified more than 100 big companies actively exploring blockchain through industry consortiums and other proprietary projects. Our new list features 50 with minimum revenues or valuations of 1 billion and US operations that are currently leading the way in adapting decentralized ledgers to their operating needs. From eliminating paperwork to monitoring hamburger patties and speeding up insurance payments, the anti-establishment software is being welcomed in the executive suite, co-opting blockchain for the boardroom. Ironically, the version of a blockchain future these companies are building is, for the most part, far different from what the founders and early adopters of blockchain had envisioned. While many cryptocurrency idealists fantasize about a global, public network of individuals connected directly and democratically without middlemen, these companies, many of which are middlemen themselves like DTCC, are building private networks they will use to profit from centralized management. The list below is in alphabetical order and identifies the distributed ledger platform each company is using. The first one is Alliance SE out of Germany. The insurance giant has been testing blockchain for a variety of products. For example, a joint venture that sells flight delay insurance has used a smart contract that initiates a claim as soon as a flight is delayed by a set period of time. The customer gets the notification on his smartphone, enters his bank account details, and payment is made. Blockchain platform Alliance is using is Hyperledger Fabric and Quarter. The rest of you are just going to read the names and the blockchain platform they are using. Amazon is using Hyperledger Fabric, Ethereum, which you're using and implementing later in 2019. Anheuser-Busch is using Ethereum and Quarter. And Financial, which is in Hangzhou, China, is using Ant Blockchain. BBVA, which is in Spain, is using Hyperledger Fabric, Quarter, and Public Ethereum. Bitfury is using Exona and Bitcoin blockchain. BNP Paribas in Paris is using Corda, Hyperledger Fabric, and Ethereum. BP in London is using Ethereum, Cardano, and Quorum. Broadridge in New York City is using Hyperledger Fabric, DAML, and Quorum. Bumblebee Foods in San Diego is using multi-chain. Cargill in Minnesota is using Hyperledger, Sawtooth, and Hyperledger Grid. Coax Health in Georgia is using Ethereum. Citigroup in New York City is using Ethereum. Coinbase San Francisco is using Bitcoin's blockchains, Ethereum, XRP, and Lumen, as in Stellar Lumens. Comcast out of Philadelphia is using Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hyperledger Fabric, and Quorum. I did not know that. CVS Health out of Rhode Island is using IBM blockchain, Hyperledger Indy, and Hyperledger Sawtooth. The Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation out of New Jersey is using Axcore, which is the same DTCC we just read about at the top of the article. Facebook out of California is using an unknown blockchain, but from what we've read in the past, Facebook is hiring multiple blockchain engineers and they are trying to come out with their own Facebook coin. Fidelity out of Boston is using Bitcoin and Ethereum. Foxconn out of Taiwan is using Ethereum. Golden State Foods out of California is using IBM's blockchain. Google out of California is using Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum Classic, Litecoin, Zcash, Dogecoin, and Dash. HPE out of California is using Corda, Ethereum, Quorum, SIA, Hyperledger Fabric. HTC out of Taiwan is using Bitcoin and Ethereum. IBM out of New York City is using IBM Blockchain, Stellar, Hyperledger Burrow, and Sovereign. ING out of Amsterdam is using Corda, Quorum, Hyperledger Fabric, and Hyperledger Indy, which is the same Hyperledger Indy we have read in the previous article. Intel out of California is using Corda, Ethereum, Hyperledger Fabric, and Hyperledger Sawtooth. JP Morgan Chase out of New York City is using Quorum, and Maersk out of Copenhagen is using IBM Blockchain and Corda. MasterCard out of New York City is using its own platform built from scratch. We've mentioned that in past articles throughout the life of the Black Brain Trust. MetLife out of New York City is using blockchain platform Ensure Chain built by Ethereum. Microsoft out of Washington is using Ethereum, Parity, Quorum, Corda, and Hyperledger Fabric. NASDAQ out of New York City is using Symbiont, Corda, and Hyperledger Fabric. Nestle out of Switzerland is using the IBM blockchain. Northern Trust out of Chicago is using Hyperledger Fabric and Ethereum. Oracle out of California is using the Oracle blockchain platform. Overstock out of the state of Utah is using Bitcoin, Ethereum, RVN, I believe that is Raven, and Florin. PNC out of Pittsburgh is using Hyperledger Fabric, DAML, Corda, and Ripple. Ripple is using their own XRP ledger. Samsung out of Seoul, South Korea is using NextLedger and Ethereum. Santander out of Madrid, Spain is using RippleNet, Hyperledger Fabric. SAP out of Germany is using Hyperledger Fabric, Multichain, and Quorum. Seagate Technologies out of Cupertino, California is using Hyperledger Fabric. Siemens out of Germany is using Ethereum, Hyperledger Fabric, Quarter. Signature Bank out of New York City is using a private Ethereum-based blockchain. State Farm out of Illinois is using Hyperledger Fabric. UBS out of Zurich is using Hyperledger Fabric, Ethereum, Quorum, and Corda. Visa is using Hyperledger Fabric. VMware is using Project Concord, a new blockchain, and Walmart is using Hyperledger Fabric. The reason I read all 50 off is to develop a theme. Hopefully, you all heard of a theme. A few of them that you read was IBM's blockchain, Hyperledger, Hyperledger Fabric, Hyperledger Sawtooth, Hyperledger Indy, Corda, Corn, a bunch of the Hyperledger fabrics. We will go through this in another hangout of where exactly do a deep dive of where exactly you can get training, information, study, and certifications on a lot of these distributed ledgers slash blockchains. But to say right here, right now, that Hyperledger Fabric is offered by the Linux Foundation. So stay tuned. We will do a much deeper dive into where you can specifically go to learn, train, get information, resources, and certifications on these distributed ledgers. Did you have any comments on this, Mike?
No.
All right, let's go ahead and get to our next article here. All right, our next article comes from Forbes.com. Meet 5 companies spearheading blockchain for renewable energies. Blockchain could be the future of renewable energy and the next chapter in smart technology, as the online platform is helping develop consumer driven power generation. The technology is providing a new level of sophistication to our energy supplies, which have previously been reliant on highly centralized systems. The potential opportunities are endless, and by increasing efficiency, blockchain could also allow for a substantial reduction of carbon emissions. To put it simply, blockchain is a list of records that is securely stored information. It uses virtual technology to decentralize information by documenting it across a network of computers. No central entity runs the system, but many people can use it. Blockchain uses a form of data logging to ensure that the information cannot be changed or corrupted by anyone else. Below are just 5 companies that are using blockchain to innovate ways to improve how we interact with our energy systems. Estonia's 100% digital energy grid made implementing a blockchain platform easy for WePower. The startup joined forces with an independent energy provider and gave consumers a chance to buy into their program using their own cryptocurrency. Blockchain offers WePower a transparent platform on which consumers could monitor energy prices and adapt the diversity their energy portfolio off of their predictions. In their white paper, WePower explains that they see blockchain and renewable energy as the next power couple of the energy market, both being complementary. WePower hopes that by helping small energy producers enter WePower hopes that by helping small clean energy producers enter the market and by providing private citizens with a cheaper, decentralized electrical grid, that power returns to the people. In reality, due to rapid technology advancements, the cost of generating electricity from renewable sources has dropped below the cost of fossil fuel based technologies and will continue to do so. As a result, there is a clear economic benefit in the increased use of renewables, which is reflected in the global trends. Initial positive results from Estonia have pushed WePower to look at overseas expansion. Australia is in WePower's sights as they look to get ahead of the curve and shake up the energy market. But this market already has local companies quickly advancing. Powerledger out of Australia. Australia has long been seen as a country with emerged potential as a clean energy hub. As blockchain rose as a platform from change, Australia startup Powerledger jumped at the opportunities to help develop the country's renewable energy market, whilst also being able to offer cheaper prices at local consumers to local consumers. With a rapid increase in personal solar power generation amongst Australian households over the past decade, Power Ledger recognized the conundrum facing the country's energy suppliers. What happens when clean energy powered by individuals becomes cheaper than their own fossil fuel burning implants? Working on the same peer to peer trading that has been the hallmark of blockchain, Power Ledger has set up microgrids that have linked clean energy producers and new residential developments. By giving consumers and producers a platform on which to monitor energy production, their sources, and their prices, Power Ledger wants to help drive the development of clean, affordable energy and sustainable development. Australia's energy market is entering a renewable energy boom as communities nationwide look to disconnect from the grid in favor of bottom up power programs. With increased appreciation for the benefit of renewable energy, many private citizens are moving away from traditional power options. This change in mentality has been felt across the country and gives Power Ledger and other such companies a chance to revolutionize the energy market in a major economic power that still heavily relies on fossil fuels. A success story in Australia could help pave the way for future developments and will be a landmark case study for blockchain energy companies. Aconia Energy and Iberdrola, Spain. Aconia Energy and Iberdrola have both used the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDG, as a framework for their clean energy program and hope to help Spain transition away from fossil fuels. As two of Spain's largest energy companies, they have an opportunity to implement blockchain quickly with large scale impact. Combined, these companies boost close to 70,000 employees worldwide, spread across 5 continents. Aconia Energy became the first utility company to use blockchain technology to certify the origin of its energy to consumers, whilst Iberdrola used a similar platform in its own pilot program. After good initial results, the latter has indicated that it intends to integrate the platform in future large scale projects, whilst the former has continued to pioneer the use of blockchain within established energy markets. By helping Spain transition to renewables by using blockchain technology, it creates a top down case study for other major companies from the standpoint of a big energy multinational. This shows that blockchain's importance spreads beyond the startup scene. The Brooklyn Microgrid, United States. The Brooklyn Microgrid is a community based approach to blockchain. It reimagines the traditional energy grid model with the concept of a communal energy network. Whilst the utility provider still remains the electrical grid that delivers power, the actual energy is generated, stored, and traded locally by members of the community for a more resilient and sustainable clean energy model. Rather than use an independent utility company, community members will be able to contribute electricity via their own solar panels or electric cars in the microgrid for other residents to buy and trade. Any excess energy will be stored amongst members of the grid and will give the opportunity for Brooklyn consumers to be a step closer to being self sufficient energy wise. Labeled prosumers, both producers and consumers, participants will help ensure the most efficient use of personal photovoltaic installations, whilst also helping reduce the amount of energy that is lost through energy transfers. The Sun Exchange, South Africa. The Sun Exchange is a startup that focuses on investment driven solar installations. It identifies sun soaked areas in South Africa where solar panels could be at their most efficient, then sells the modules to private investors who can then lease them to local schools and businesses. This business model ensures that local communities are able to benefit from cheap, clean energy whilst investors help fund and deliver several projects that will generate income for the 20 years that panels are viable. All transactions can be processed, Bitcoin simplifying international monetary transactions. And the Sun Exchange uses blockchain based smart contracts to reduce the need and cost of physical administration. The Sun Exchange acts as a crowdfunding platform for small to medium scale solar projects in developing countries, allowing investors worldwide to help fund plants with national currency or Bitcoin payments. It has already funded projects including an 18 kilowatt rooftop solar plant for a Cape Town based nonprofit and a 60 kilowatt system for an elephant park in Kin- Keniesna on South Africa's south coast. All right. So, excuse me, five companies spearheading blockchain for renewable energies. Um, what was your opinions on this one, Mike?
I don't have too much of an opinion on this. I think that managing renewable energy through a distributed ledger is actually a pretty simplified, not simplified, but it's actually a simplistic process in terms of how they able to gather up enough data for metering and billing and things like that and identity. It's a part of digital infrastructure, so it makes sense that you would add blockchain to something like a renewable energy piece of infrastructure. So it goes hand in hand, and I think that at some point, most utility companies, whether they're renewable energies or they're nuclear based, will eventually move to a blockchain setup. So
Yeah, I
that
know.
was kind of good.
Oh, go ahead. I know a few times in the past we've spoken pertaining to this. We've spoken about Power Ledger in Australia once or twice in the past, and we've spoken about the solar project that's going on in Nigeria about using blockchain to do the same things that you mentioned, and we've spoken about transferring that to the water supply also in the past in one of our infrastructure hangouts. But you're right; this goes hand in hand, and the simple things that they're using blockchain for to readily implement at that is on par with what blockchain is used for, is developed for. All right, let's get to our next article. This one comes from CoinJoin. BMW presents blockchain-based odometer fraud prevention app. Ver- Verified car developed with VeChain. At the VeChain Summit 2019 on April 18th, 2019, in San Francisco, Cyan Albay, the IT leader at BMW Group, Asia's tech office in Singapore, presented the firm's Verified Car app, a vehicle digital passport on the blockchain, which it developed in collaboration with VeChain, a blockchain startup focusing primarily on supply chain management. Verified Car aims to address odometer fraud, a widespread issue in Germany where 33% of secondhand cars have manipulated odometers. The estimated average economic impact of the practice adds up to €3,000 per car, resulting in a total damage of around €6 billion yearly. What we try to do here is to build a digital passport that verifies data sets and allows people to know if what a seller says is really true, Albay told the audience. Quote, we build a digital ledger using the VeChain blockchain. Every interaction with a car has a stored hash key in the blockchain that can be anything from changing a filter, changing the battery, having the annual service, etc. Our cars all have a SIM card which sends out datasets regularly. We store these datasets, verify them, and of course make a call to the blockchain to prove that this call has already been made. End quote. The Verify Car app has already been tested with internal vehicles, Albay said, adding that BMW is currently determining how to roll the product out. Blockchain is still a sensitive topic. People in Germany currently don't know how to react about blockchain, especially when they hear that information stored in a blockchain cannot be deleted afterwards. He said, "We really need to have a look at our business strategy and how to roll out, but we have proven that it works and we are keen to continue further." VeChain was part of BMW Startup Garage, a 4-month collaboration program focusing on developing relevant solutions for the German car manufacturer. Albi said the two companies have been working together for over a year now. The Verify app is one of the numerous blockchain initiatives BMW has been involved in. Last year, it launched the Mobility Open Blockchain Initiative, or MOBI, with more than 30 other automakers, startups, and tech companies. Today, the consortium counts more than 100 companies and organizations and is actively involved in working groups, events, and hackathons. All right, so BMW is coming out or trying to roll out a odometer fraud prevention app called Verify. Now, from this quote, and I don't know if you all are listening, from this quote, it actually tells how this app works. I'll read the quote again. It's right here. We build a digital ledger using the VeChain blockchain. Every interaction with a car has a stored hash key in the blockchain. That can be anything from changing the filter, changing the battery, having the annual service, etc. Our cars all have a SIM card which sends out data sets regularly. We store these data sets, verify them, and of course make a call to the blockchain to prove that this call has already been made. So what they're doing is every time you change a tire, go not specifically change a tire, but go get your car worked on and maintenance. From that maintenance, information is gathered such as how many miles is on the car. That information is then sent out via the SIM card because at this point the car is technically smart. The information is sent out via the SIM card, which then will say, okay, this car with VIN number such and such on this date had their oil change, their tire rotated, their annual service, changing the battery, changed the filter, and during this, it had such and such miles. All the information is already on the um, the report. Can't remember the name of the report right now. When you look up the history of a car, so if someone rolls back the mileage of the car, it will not be in sync with the blockchain because the blockchain is a continuously updated ledger. It can only be added to. You can't go back to change information. You can only update it. So if someone rolls back 10,000 miles off a car and they try to sell it to you or sell it to a car company tries to sell it to you, you can then verify from VeChain's blockchain through BMW's app called Verify app that hey, this car per this blockchain say it should have 45,000 miles on it and not 35,000 miles. That's how they plan on verifying information and using this app. You have any comments on this one, Mike?
No, I think you've covered it. Fraud in the automotive industry is still a big issue. So, um, you do have a lot of cars with mismatched not dashboards, but odometers that read the wrong odometer reading. So definitely a welcome. But everything is all digital now, so um, most cars have black boxes. Anything made after 2008 has a black box to it, so it could actually read all that. All that information should be stored into a hard chip, but you still have a lot of people who try to manipulate the odometer itself so that they can get uh, higher value on their vehicle by having lower mileage. That's going to come to an end at some point.
Hmm. Hmm. All right. I agree with you. Let's get to our next article here. Our next article comes from CryptoGlobe.com. Title: Neo 3.0 Roadmap Revealed. Co-founder Eric Zhang explains key changes to smart contract platform. The developers of Neo, a leading platform for building and deploying decentralized applications, or dApps, have officially released a roadmap for Neo 3.0, which consists of several code-based modifications that are intended to enhance the blockchain's network's performance. Eric Zhang, the co-founder and co-developer at Neo, revealed via Twitter on April 29th, 2019, that the changes made to the platform's protocol with Neo 3.0 will allow for large-scale commercial applications already, will allow for large-scale commercial application-ready solutions to be developed on the blockchain network. Neo 3.0 high throughput enhanced stability. Zhang, a graduate of Shanghai University, explained that the changes activated with Neo 3.0 will enable high throughput, enhanced stability, and optimized smart contract systems, and a wide selection of tools for infrastructure development. A detailed As detailed in a recent Medium post authored by Zhang, the upgrades associated with Neo 3.0 will allow developers to create dApps that cater to a diverse set of enterprise-grade business requirements, working with academia, industry leaders to develop governance mechanisms. According to NEO's development team, the proper governance of blockchain networks involves managing processes that ensure the long term evolution of a distributed ledger technology, or DLT, based network. Zhang also revealed that in 2019, the developers of NEO will be actively collaborating with experts from the academia, industry, and community to explore various governance mechanisms, including liquid democracy, futarchy, futarchy, as well as other techniques. As noted by Zhang, economic models are often tightly interlaced with governance mechanisms. Therefore, they will be treated as an integrated system. He added that NEO's enhancement protocols, or NEPs, regarding on chain governance changes will be published if satisfying outcomes are achieved after conducting adequate research. DBFT to provide single block finality. Some of the some of the new features that will be included in Neo 3.0 consist of an upgraded network consensus protocol called Delegated Byzantine Fault Tolerance, or DBFT mechanism. As described by Zhang, DBFT is a consensus mechanism designed specifically for blockchains. A typical DBFT implementation involves a set of consensus nodes that are selected through a voting process, and these consensus nodes jointly generate and validate blocks. As consensus nodes are required to come to a shared consensus on a new block before it is committed to the blockchain, DBFT provides single block finality, meaning the Neo blockchain cannot be forked and transactions are irreversible. Moreover, once a transaction is confirmed on a blockchain network that uses DBFT, it cannot be reversed or canceled. This, Zhang explained, is a necessity of financial applications. Neo 2.x to be deployed soon. The Chinese developer also mentioned that the development of DBFT 2.0 began in the last quarter of 2018 and that it was finalized by Q1 2019. The developers of Neo are now planning to deploy Neo 2.0 to the platform's mainnet. Enhancements to pricing model for Neo 3.0. The Neo platform utilizes a dual token economy, meaning that, like Ethereum, the Neo network uses two native tokens, the Neo and Gas tokens, to facilitate transactions on this network. Gas is used to pay transaction fees and smart contract execution fees. Zhang wrote, however, there are certain issues that this approach, such as the relatively high cost of deploying and running smart contracts, the Neo co-founder noted. The problem, Zhang believes, leads to a reluctance in smart contract usage and development. According to Zhang, Neo's current pricing model becomes a significant obstacle in the gas application scenarios and thus hinders the continuous growth of DApp development and usage on Neo platform. The set of system-wide upgrades that will be activated with Neo 3.0 have been developed to address the current challenges with Neo's pricing model, Zhang explained. He added that this would be achieved by significantly reducing the development and execution costs of smart contracts, thereby expanding the application scenarios of gas and increasing the number of dApps. Neo 3.0 to include built-in Oracle implementation. Additionally, Neo 3.0 will include a built-in Oracle implementation, which will allow smart contracts to access internet resources during execution. Neo 3.0 will also address issues such as inconsistencies between nodes when assessing internet resources, which will be resolved thanks to security and efficiency of DBFT 2.0. Changes that will go into effect with Neo 3.0 will also redesign the peer-to-peer protocol, add support to the UDP communications protocol, and enable compression options. This is expected to greatly improve the TPS or transactions per seconds and stability of the network. Upgrades to Neo Virtual Machine. As noted by Zhang, the Neo VM is a lightweight virtual machine for executing smart contracts. It features fast startup, low resource consumption, and supports multiple high-level programming languages to allow developers to build contracts with familiar tools. When Neo 3.0 is launched, the Neo VM will be completely decoupled from the blockchain and become a pure virtual machine. Implementing an independent virtual machine will will be easy will enable easy implementation of native contracts, allow developers to work on application scenarios of Neo VM outside the blockchain, and the smooth integration of Neo VM into any integrated development environment or IDE, and easily debugging of smart contracts without loading blockchain data. Neo VM will also include support for static members and exception handling. Other changes that Neo 3.0 will introduce involve the integration of NeoFS, which is a distributed decentralized object storage platform integrated with Neo. Additionally, Neo 3.0 will feature Neo ID, which is a decentralized identity protocol built on Neo. All right, there's a lot to unpack in this article. I apologize if you all were able to keep up, but I'll attempt to unpack a lot. Neo is first and foremost China's version of Ethereum. Um, there are people that say it's supposed to compete against Ethereum, but it's my belief that crypto is not a zero sum game. There could be multiple versions of the same thing. And Neo is having a is resetting their blockchain. Usually in crypto, when there are new updates, you get a hard fork. And a hard fork does not specifically mean a forking of a coin to get another coin. Case in point, Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. A hard fork can also just mean an upgrade to that blockchain, new code being implemented to that blockchain's code. One of the things that's being implemented is something called right here. It's called DBFT or um, distributed, no, not distributed. I want to say distributed, delegated Byzantine fault tolerance. Without losing you, Byzantine fault tolerance is, I'll just give you the story because that's how you can better understand it. During the year of Constantine and the Byzantine Empire, when they were trying to take over city, there were generals on all four corners of the city, and the messenger went to all four generals to tell them when to attack. Now, the problem is that messenger boy could have been infiltrated, well, could have been intercepted by an enemy and forced to tell two or one generals different times to attack. But that is the Byzantine fault tolerance problem. In that it says, well, if you have more people that know when to attack, so if three of the four officers attacked at 2 o'clock, one officer attacked at 1 or 3 o'clock, then you will have a better chance of survival. That's the Byzantine fault tolerance, or BFT. The delegated BFT, Byzantine fault tolerant, is you would then vote for specific people that's delegated to form blocks or forge blocks on the blockchain. And you would then send them a coin to say, hey, or a gas token, because Neo uses gas to say, hey, I vote for you in the projects that you are working on. Then they would then take your coins and use that to as funding to create whatever projects they're working on, and send you daily, weekly, and month, well, really daily, depending on how much you sent them, daily interest on what you sent them. Um, did you have any comments on this, Mike? I really don't want to lose people in this one.
No, you don't have any comments for me.
All right. I'll just jump to the Neo virtual machine, because this is, since it's so fresh in people's heads. The Neo virtual machine is, it says in the name, it's a virtual machine where you can work on smart contracts and any other implementation that you want to ultimately put on the Neo's blockchain. So in that virtual machine, which is cut off from Neo's blockchain, you would then have all like a SDK kit to work on. SDK is a developer's kit to work on any smart contracts or anything else that you ultimately want to put on Neo's blockchain. The purpose of the VM is to work out any bugs, to stress test your code or your smart contract, and to make sure to work, basically sandbox it, to work out anything that can go wrong where you would then lose more if you were to put it on the blockchain compared to working it out in that sandbox, then putting it on the blockchain. So what Neo is doing is providing you that space to do everything that you need to do, then having, excuse me, then it says it's right here, smooth integrated, smooth integration of Neo VM to any integrated development environment, which means after you work out everything, then it will be a smooth process to work out the finished code, the finished smart contract, a smooth implementation on Neo's blockchain, instead of doing it separately of Neo's blockchain and then trying to find a way to put it on Neo's blockchain. They're giving you that space, that information, and that sandbox to do it, then having that smooth process to Neo's blockchain. All right. I should see if there's any questions in the chat here. Um, okay. Yeah. So you got Frank Holly Neo. There's going to be a swap. I don't. Well, as long as you have your Neo in your wallet or on an exchange that will do the swap for you, then you should be fine. Um, I believe that's how it should go. I'm pretty sure it's a one-to-one deal. And yeah, yeah. All right, let's go ahead to our next article here. Share my screen. All right, our next article comes from TechCrunch.com. Title: Microsoft launches a fully managed blockchain service. Microsoft didn't rush to bring blockchain technology to its Azure cloud computing platform, but over the course of the year, it started to pick up the pace with the launch of its blockchain development kit and the Azure Blockchain Workbench. Today, ahead of its Build Developer Conference, it is going to it is going a step further by launching Azure Blockchain Services, a fully managed service that allows for the information, management, and governance of consortium blockchain networks. We're not talking cryptocurrencies here, though. This is an enterprise service that is meant to help businesses build applications on top of blockchain technology. It is integrated with Azure Active Directory and offers tools for adding new members, setting setting permissions, and monitoring network health and activity. The per, excuse me, the first supporter support ledger is JP Morgan's Quorum because it's built on the popular Ethereum protocol, which has the world's largest blockchain developer community. Quorum is a natural choice. Azure CTO Mark Russinovich writes in today's announcement. It integrates with a rich set of open source tools while also supporting confidential transactions, something our enterprise customers require. The launch to launch this integration, Microsoft partnered closely with JP Morgan. The managed service is only one part of this package though. Microsoft also today launched an extension to Visual Studio Code to help developers create smart contracts. The extension allows Visual Studio Code users to create and compile Ethereum smart contracts and deploy them on the public chain or on a consortium network in Azure Blockchain Services. The code is then managed by Azure DevOps. Building applications for these smart contracts is also going to get easier thanks to integration with Logic Apps and Flow, Microsoft tool workflow integration services, as well as Azure functions for event-driven development. Microsoft, of course, isn't the first of the big companies to get into the game. IBM especially made a big push for blockchain adoption in recent years, and AWS too is now getting into the game after mostly ignoring this technology before. Indeed, AWS opened up its own managed blockchain service only 2 days ago. All right, this is I saw this coming. A few months ago, I saw that Microsoft partnered with the crypto waves platform, and in it, that I believe I sent that email out. In it, there was some wording in that announcement that led me to believe um, Microsoft has a um, code editor. I'll pull it up right now for you. It's a code editor, Visual Studio, which let's see, oh, I apologize. Has a code editor, Visual Studio. From here, you can work on your smart contracts or any other blockchain-based um, blockchain or distributed ledger-based code. Work work on it from the code editor. This code editor is continuously updated, always updated by Microsoft. You can work on your code here and upload it to Microsoft Azure Cloud Service. Much like Neo's VM or virtual machine, this is somewhat like that, but I would say it's somewhat like that, but you can work. It's really no, but you can work on your code in this code editor, then upload it to Microsoft Azure blockchain service and a slash cloud platform. That is what I'm thinking. That ease of succession from working on it in your computer to therefore uploading to. Microsoft, basically blockchain as a service. You have any comments on this one, Mike?
No, this is just a part of Microsoft's strategy for going forward under the new CEO. So just about AAS, so anything as a service now in blockchain has become a part of that.
Yeah, that's that. I like how what Microsoft not what I like how Microsoft is going with this. They're saying this and they're saying, hey, this is a great technology, and they already have the tools there to help implement it more. And when they partner, it was a press release when they partnered with Waves that, and that, like I said, the press release, I just said, hey, this, maybe they're trying to go in this direction. And per article, I was right. Um, see if I can pull up the press release. All right, I see it here. Let me share my screen. All right. Yep. This came out in January 30th of this year. Waves Waves starts partnership with Microsoft Azure and promise surprise for devs. Waves, a Russian blockchain platform, is set to make an important partnership with Microsoft Azure. Sasha Ivanov, the head of Waves, has affirmed on social media on January 20th that now a new partnership between the company and Microsoft Azure has led Waves to offer smart assets and contracts on the platform. And not to go too deep into this, but it says it in the title, you know, partners with Microsoft Azure and promises surprise with devs. So back then, I saw this coming, and lo and behold, there, uh, I was right. All right, so let's get to our next article. Our next article comes from Cointelegraph. Title: Crypto regulation experts debate state versus federal regulation in blockchain era. I mentioned this earlier in the show of how the states such as Washington State, Tennessee, Ohio, Colorado, and Wyoming are putting laws on the book concerning laws on their books concerning distributed ledger, blockchain technology. Three cryptocurrency experts expressed diverging views toward United States crypto regulation at a panel during the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, Business of Blockchain event on May 2nd. Wyoming Blockchain Coalition President Kaylin Long argued that digital assets are property and thus should be regulated at the state level with the appropriate with the approach that states control property law, states control commercial law, feds control security law. She further praised Wyoming's diligence in legally clarifying these terms as applied to cryptocurrency. Peter Van Valkenburg, director of research at Coin Center, disagreed. He considered state level regulation an inconvenience to companies and consumers. According to him, some states underprotect while others overprotect. He cited Alabama as an example. Quote, you can get a money transmission license in the state of Alabama for a $5,000 bond. So a company that's handling potentially millions of dollars for Alabamans is secured. The custodial risk is hedged against a $5,000 bond, end quotes. Gary Gensler, former chairman of the CFTC and current MIT lecturer, was in favor of federal regulation specifically for cryptocurrency exchanges, reasoning, quote, one, I think that we do need the investor protection at the crypto exchanges. And two, On the money laundering side, right now the crypto exchanges are required to register at any state they're transmitting over some de minimis amount, and that means a 50 plus jurisdictions. End quote. Long preferred keeping such organizations subject to state regulation because digital assets are property, and that has historically been the purview of the states. When asked what distinguishes the work of U.S. crypto exchange Coinbase from PayPal and other federally regulated companies do, Long said, quote, they're not handling dollars, end quote. When Gensler suggested that crypto exchanges should comply with the Bank Secrecy Act, Long answered, as in Caitlin Long, answered that she expects that act to be struck down the next time it is challenged, citing the minuscule conviction rate that it has produced. Long's home state of Wyoming traditionally employs low tax, low regulation legislation. In January, the state passed two new House bills aimed at fostering a regulatory environment conducive to cryptocurrency and blockchain innovation. In early April, two members of the U.S. House of Representatives reintroduced the Token Taxonomy Act. The act contains a preemption provision that will supersede state regulations. All right, so basically, what this article is saying that, excuse me, if there's a debate in political circles on whether cryptocurrencies and information put on a digital blockchain should be regulated at the state level or the federal level. If it's regulated at the federal level, it means that the federal government which would make legislation that all 50 states have to abide by. At the state level, as we're seeing now, such as the states I mentioned already, we're seeing states make legislation that regulate cryptocurrencies as they see fit, such as in Wyoming. Long's home state of Wyoming traditionally employs low regulation legislation. In January, the state passed two new House bills aimed at fostering a regulatory environment conducive to cryptocurrency and blockchain innovation. Now, saw an interview with her that she said out of her own mouth that the reason they did that is because in a lot of states, mainly New York, it's very hard to get a license in New York. She's They aim to attract cryptocurrency slash blockchain businesses to get loans easy in the state because a lot of states, since the technology is new, a lot of states are hesitant in giving out loans to these businesses that want to create startups that want to create businesses based on this new technology. So that's basically what this article is about, is the debate between state and federal regulation of blockchain. Do you have any comments on this, Mike?
I don't have anything on this one.
All right, let's get to our next article here. Okay. All right. This next article comes from Cointelegraph. U.S. government blockchain spending expected to increase 1,000% between 2017 and 2022, a study says. The United States federal government is expected to raise its blockchain spending to 123.5 million by 2022, an over 1,000% increase as compared with the 10.7 million it spent in 2017. The forecast was made in a report from IDC Government Insights published on April 18th. IDC indicates that blockchain spending among state and local governments is also anticipated to grow from 4.4 million in 2017 to 48.2 million in 2022. Similarly, an almost 1,000% rise. Federal civilian agencies who reportedly spent less than 20 million on the technology in 2017 are likely to spend over 80 million by 2022. The report continues. The Defense Department, which likewise spent less than 20 million in 2017, could almost double this figure and hit 40 million by 2022, the IDC claims. Government investment in blockchain technology is likely to evolve and expand to include more complex areas over time. The IDC's research director, Sean McCarthy, outlined, quote, we believe asset management, identity management, and smart contracts will be the leading blockchain solutions for government. Early spending will focus on supply chain and asset management solutions, while spending in later years will expand to include more identity management and complex financial transactions. End quote. IDC also notes that blockchain is likely to become a cornerstone technology for trade legislation and is likely to be implemented as a standard feature for some types of authorized international trade and also as a standard for many types of government procurement. In terms of specific implications of the technology, the report argues that a hybrid blockchain approach, combining aspects of private and public networks, is likely to prove the most popular among government agencies. As reported last month, the current Republican minority leader in the U.S. House of Representatives has recently argued that blockchain should be implemented to improve the transparency of the legislative process and bring more security and accountability to government. A separate IDC report from 2018 forecasted that worldwide blockchain spending will grow to 9.7 billion in 2021. All right, there's a few things in this article that stuck out to me. Starting from the midsection here, government investment in blockchain technology is likely to evolve and expand to include more complex areas over time. The IDC research director Sean McCarthy outlined. Now, blockchain technology, crypto and blockchain, even they're synonymous with each other, but they're not the same. So we're going to focus on blockchain because cryptocurrency is also compared to what I'm about to say. But blockchain is compared to the early internet. When the early internet first came out in 92, 93, 94, 95, at the most, you had a slow, clunky internet. AOL disks was being sent out. It wasn't too user friendly. When it first came out, it was used for a few different things, but as it evolved, it expanded to include a lot more things. Case in point, what you're using to listen to me now. That's expansion. That's what this sentence is talking about. Government investing in blockchain technology is likely to evolve to expand to more complex areas. Now, in his quote, I'll read the quote out. He says, we believe asset management, identity management, and smart contracts will be the leading blockchain solution for government. Early spending will focus on supply chain and asset management solutions, while spending in later years will expand to include more identity management and complex financial interactions. So, in the beginning, it will focus on asset management, identity management, and so forth. That's within the government. Um, we all know that the government has a problem with their budget, with spending, overspending, and also with contractors overcharging the government on certain projects. So what they're saying in the immediate, they're saying that blockchain can be used to limit that and tap down on that spending. But in the long run, um, start from here. Early spending will focus on supply management, supply chain, which pretty much a lot of people know that blockchain can be used for supply chain, tracking what you order from the shipper to the person that's receiving. And while spending in later years will expand to include more identity management and complex financial transactions. So that's excuse me, that's in the 5 to 10 years from now. I would say 5 to 7 years to include identity management within government circles, within government facilities to clamp down on people trying to have access to these government installations and complex financial transactions. And when they say that to me, that's saying that intergovernment agencies spending money with each other. That's what they're saying to me. Also, excuse me. Also, it's saying, where was it? Okay, as reported last month, the current Republican minority leader of the U.S. House of Representatives has recently argued that blockchain should be implemented to improve the transparency of the legislative process and bring more security and accountability to the government. That's true. Everybody is talking, a lot of people, I'll say a lot of people are talking about more accountability from the government. This is what can bring that accountability to the government. No, well, I will say no more, but less you will hear of where the money go. Where's this? Government is spending X amount on this. What's the show for it? With this transparency, because remember, blockchain is a distributed ledger, a continuously updated ledger. It's a ledger, such as in, uh, excuse me. So, what it's a ledger in terms of who spent what, who sent what to who, and who owns what. So, if one branch of the government spends money to purchase procurements or purchase something from another government, then that is all on the blockchain, and you can then go and see. It may be a private blockchain, but let's leave it to my next point. But you can see what was spent, when was spent, and you will have more accountability. You'll then be able to go to whoever and say, "Hey, we sent this money to you, or we paid you for this." You'll then have more direct accountability. And to my last point, which it says right here, highlighted, in terms of specific implementations of the technology, the report argues that a hybrid blockchain approach combining aspects of private and public networks is likely to prove the most popular among government agencies. Um, the best case in point I have is local government. Surprisingly, um, in a lot of cities, there is, how do I say this, land fraud, where people that work in the city governments can actually go and say this person don't own this land. They can change the records basically. So if it's a public blockchain, if the public has access to a private blockchain, they'll say I'm in Chicago. If I have access to Chicago's land records, it's both the public and private. I can't go in and change it. I just have access to it. If I want to buy land, I can then go and see who owns it, the history, the outline, where the property starts and ends. Instead of saying, hey, who owns this property? And then having a debate on or going to not legislation, litigation on who owns their property and you losing money and so forth. So that's the most direct case in point. It's a lot of case in points that this says, but I agree combining aspects of private and public networks would be the best fit for distributed ledger slash blockchain in America and government. But U.S. government blockchain spending expected to increase 1,000% between 2 years ago to 2020. You have any comments on this one, Mike?
None for me.
All right. Excuse me. Anything in the chat? Yeah, Jay Charles said this could possibly reduce white collar crime dramatically. It could. Um, this can reduce crime. I'm not saying that this will eradicate everything. It will. It can greatly reduce it. It can greatly reduce it, and that's what it's for. It's to help. All right. We can turn next article. This one comes from Toshi Times. Amazon announces general availability of Amazon managed blockchain, making it easy and cost efficient to deploy blockchain networks. And a few articles ago, as I was reading, I think it was from TechCrunch, it said that Amazon announced they are entering the blockchain space 2 days ago. And this article is from 2 days ago, as you can see right up in there. All right. Amazon has announced it is now entering the blockchain technology fray, joining a growing group of blockchain embracing software giants, which already include Microsoft and Oracle. Specifically, Amazon Web Services, or AWS, is making the Amazon Managed Blockchain, or AMB, available to the public. Amazon Web Services released its Amazon Managed Blockchain. This news came in an announcement from Amazon Web Services on April 30th. Notably, Amazon Web Services is Amazon's cloud computing division and is only growing in importance for the retail behemoth. In fact, AWS has been described as crucial to the success of Amazon, not only for revenue, but also for profits. As such, it is perhaps not all too surprising to see that AWS is spearheading blockchain technology adoption in a bid to retain its competitiveness. What's more, AWS has been exploring blockchain related applications internally for a long time. Amazon Managed Blockchain is a blockchain as a service and is geared towards helping consumers to manage and create blockchain networks within their organizations. In addition to this, Amazon Managed Blockchain is said to be utilizing popular open source frameworks such as Hyperledger Fabric, you hear that once again, and soon Ethereum. Amazon notes that creating a blockchain network is oftentimes a complex and time consuming task, which discourages some consumers from exploring the technology. AMB will instead supposedly give businesses the option to deploy blockchain networks at a lower cost and more quickly than developing them from scratch. AMB aims to make blockchain technology more readily available to businesses and consumers. Moreover, Amazon is suggesting that AMB has also been developed in order to be highly scalable, with Amazon claiming that AMB can scale to support thousands or even millions of different transactions. Hmm, okay. The general manager for Amazon Managed Blockchain at AWS, Rahul Patek, has went on to summarize the advantages associated with AMB. Quote, Amazon Managed Blockchain takes care of provisioning nodes, setting up the network, managing certificates and security, and scaling the network. Consumers can now get a functioning blockchain network set up quickly and easily, so they can focus on application development instead of keeping a blockchain network up and running. End quote. Moreover, a series of major firms are said to be already employing the product. The major U.S. telecommunications firm AT&T, the food and beverage behemoth Nestle, an Asian investment holding company Singapore Exchange Limited, and the multinational IT company Accenture are just some of the well-known companies mentioned in AWS communique. Amazon Web Services is described as the world's most comprehensive and broadly adopted cloud platform. As such, the release of Amazon Managed Blockchain through AWS is significant, as it could potentially dramatically boost the general usage of blockchain technology. All right, Amazon is releasing their own general available of Amazon managed blockchain. I agree with the last statement of this sentence. I'll read that again. The release of Amazon managed blockchain through AWS is significant, and it could potentially dramatically boost the general usage of blockchain technology. AWS, Amazon Web Service, is a behemoth. For those that don't know, it sites such as Netflix, um, Pinterest, large sites that you go to every day is hosted on AWS. And with Amazon rolling out their AMB, um, actively managed blockchain, Amazon managed blockchain, they're opening up this possibility to the customers that they already have. Amazon Cloud Service has already has a big chunk of the cloud service space with Microsoft Azure closing in, and Microsoft Azure has already their own version of their blockchain service. Now, Amazon, which is the whale in this area, is providing and opening up their blockchain, AMB, Amazon Managed Blockchain, to their customers and the new customers and current customers. So, yes, they can open up the blockchain world to a lot more institutions, businesses, and customers. And they're using Hyperledger Fabric framework, Hyperledger Fabric, and soon Ethereum, which are the same two that we constantly heard in the article labeled Forbes 50 billion-dollar companies that are using blockchain. Excuse me. You have any comments on this one?
Yeah. Oh well, just one. Amazon's a a web services company. So as the name implies, AWS, um, managing blockchain and getting more customers onto their managed services is exactly what their business model is about. So doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, yeah. With just because blockchain is said to be a good technology, it can disrupt a lot of um, things. Doesn't necessarily mean it's for everyone. Excuse me. It's for everyone. Um, every business doesn't need blockchain. Just I would say that, but a lot of businesses will use it, will need it. Excuse me, I'm kind of losing my voice here. So yeah, excuse me. I wanted to. I know what we're going a deeper dive on this on our next hangout on blockchain, but I want to go to the Linux Foundation to show you all the Hyperledger fabric. Excuse me. All right, so this is from hyperledger.org, the Hyperledger Greenhouse. This is the frameworks. We spoke about Hyperledger Indy, Hyperledger Indy, and which you also have, which is the decentralized identity. When I read the articles talking about Hyperledger and Indy, it spoke about identity, keeping people's identity safe, keeping people's identity safe from hacks and identity thieves. So also you have Hyperledger Burrow, which is permissionable smart contract machine. Hyperledger Fabric, which you heard a lot of, which is a permission with channel support. Hyperledger Grid, WebAssembly based project for building supply chain solutions. Hyperledger Aroha, mobile application focus. Hyperledger Sawtooth, permission and permissionless support. EVM transaction family. You have Hyperledger Caliper, blockchain framework, benchmark platform, Celo as a service deployment, Composer, model and build blockchain networks, Explore, view and explore data on the blockchain, which I believe Google should be. Excuse me. I can see Google implementing this because Google is developing a search engine for to search blockchain such as Bitcoin and Ethereum's blockchain. I think just Bitcoin's blockchain. So I can see this in Google's future in the future. Quilt, ledger interoperability. Interoperability means you can do transactions between different ledgers, such as let's say IBM and Google. This would be put on top of, or they would. I'm missing my words tonight. They would use this in order to have interoperability where you can swap in between their blockchains without any problems. And you have Hyperledger Ursa, which is a shared cryptographic library. Also on the Linux Foundation, you have, okay, see it right here, certifications. Hmm. But you have certification there. They certify in two so far, which is Hyperledger Fabric and Hyperledger Sawtooth. Here we go. So you have Hyperledger Fabric and Sawtooth. So the Hyperledger Fabric, Certified Hyperledger Fabric Administrator, the Certified Hyperledger Fabric Administrator, or CHFA, will be able to effectively build a secure Hyperledger Fabric network for commercial deployment, including the ability to install, configure, operate, manage, excuse me, and troubleshoot the nodes on the network, and it costs $300. And then the other one, which is CHSA, or Certified Hyperledger Sawtooth Administrator. The Certified Hyperledger Sawtooth Administrator, or CHSA, excuse me, will be able to effectively build a secure Hyperledger Sawtooth network for commercial deployment, including the ability to install, configure, operate, manage, and troubleshoot the nodes on that network. And to take this certification, it costs $300. So, like I said, during our next blockchain hangout, I want to dive in deep on the areas of certification, where you can go to get certification, the different reputable sites to get both training and certification on the certificates because they're out there, and where you can supplement your knowledge on both blockchain and distributed ledger technology. Excuse me. Did you have any comments on this one, Mike?
None for me.
All right. The bit of reading the chat here, and Richard Dixon says he loves learning C sharp. I can go into blockchain or game development besides the usual web and app development. Yeah, I'm going to put that on the docket. What programs that these blockchains are usually coded in, and what programs and smart contracts are coded in also. All right. Is that it? I believe that's it for tonight. Unless you have anything else.
Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button as you before you leave. If you have not, share the video if possible, and you all have a good weekend.
All right. Have a good one.